following program on Ada Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised. For a real view, real opinion, and for an honest conversation, it's time to Get Real with Mahieash Johnney. Tonight, coming to you from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening, everyone. Welcome to a new season of Get Real, where we give you real views, real opinions, and honest conversations. Thank you very much for joining us this evening as well. Once again, we actually took a longer break because two elections, and we had to face two elections, and we gave way for that. And here we are after two elections with a new government, a new president, and a new justice minister who is joining me this evening as well. Welcome to the program, Justice Minister.
Thank you very much.
Justice Minister Harshana Nanayakkara, you are also the Minister of National Integration as well. Welcome to the program. You just said a very interesting topic prior to the conversation. You have only been once here into the studio, yes, but during for a debate program, yes, about I think a few years back.
Yes.
And here you are now returning as the Minister of Justice. How has governance been so far?
Well, it's been about, the full government has been formed for just over 2 months now. Yeah. So it took us some time. I mean, we know the politics, but getting adjusted to the new role was, there are 24 departments coming under the ministry. So the first month we spent time taking stock of what we have and getting adjusted. And now we have made a ground assessment. Now the projects have to be started to deliver.
Minister, with regard to, there are lots of things I want to talk to you about. Prior to that, I want to get your take on the current assessment, because you are a lawyer prior to becoming this minister or taking over politics, but I don't think you were in active politics for quite some time. But here we are, now the people of this country has given you all the power, and not just power, a supermajority within the parliament. Yeah. And here we're talking about basically understanding the issues of certain systems. Justice Ministry is a very valuable component in our entire society and our entire existence of this country, because upholding law is quite crucial. So what are the issues that you found out in terms, as soon as you came into this ministry, had a look at what was going on? And what was the most surprising thing that you found that, we need to address this immediately?
Well, actually, I mean, it's not fair if I say I was surprised.
Oh, yeah.
Because even prior to the elections, I was in the profession.
Yeah.
And also, first thing, what our government will have to do, what I found out, surprising or otherwise, I mean, nothing surprised me because we knew what we were inheriting, right? But the first, as you rightly pointed out, rule of law. Now, rule of law is very, very important. The economy, society, everything function of rule of law. For that to function, the public must trust the system and the establishments. But we jolly well know what the public thinks of the courthouses, what the public thinks of the police and the prosecuting authorities such as Attorney General. And the first challenge for us is to bring back credibility to these institutions. Now, it's quite rightly that the public were doubtful because there were some certain instances in the past where it was kind of obvious there's some interference politically. So the first thing we were hell-bent on doing, which we are doing right now, is keeping the judiciary and the law enforcement authorities independent. That means we as a minister or as a government, what we do is to facilitate the processes, remove barriers for them and providing them support to perform their function independently. So I think first thing we have to do is get people to trust them, right? The independence of the judiciary. They must feel just because you have money and power, you cannot run the show, something like that. But still, those who voted for us even, right, are observing what we are doing. I mean, we have been able to, in the first 2 months, you didn't hear a minister trying to unlawfully do something or steal some money or do some unlawful interference. We have set the example, but that doesn't mean things are going to fall into place. The other thing for the trust to come back is that people must feel justice is being done to them. Now, what if cases are getting laid by 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 10, 15 years, land cases and civil matters, case being dragged on? That is a problem. Now, I knew there was a problem, but I was surprised to see the magnitude of the problem that only after I assumed office. If you look at
what is the magnitude?
1.1 million cases.
Backlog?
Backlog. That is pending in courts currently. This is all the entire court system. If you look at it, I think in 2019, ADB did research, and they're saying about 3,500 cases per judge. This was 2019. So after Corona, and now it could have increased. We do not know. So what has happened is that after we opened our country in 1977, disputes and litigations increased. But the judicial infrastructure was going on the traditional manner. I'm talking about the physical as well as the soft aspects of it. So no new methods have been improved. So whatever the backlog you're having right now is not the doing of just one government. I would say about 30 years of governance. Basically, our system, I mean, we are doing the research, we have the data, we can see how things go, right? But no pre-planning. We just react to a situation. So, I mean, in order to avoid the delays, this is a crucial part. We have to go for a targeted intervention. I think the ADB has given some proposals which are being studied at the moment. Now, the other issue in this area to address this is that there's no central leadership role to keep the independence of the judiciary. The Judicial Service Commission, headed by the Chief Justice, right, is giving the directions and orders to the Judicial Service. Now, the Ministry of Justice can't do that because I'm the executive arm. So I can only look at the minor stuff. So what we need is a good coordinating mechanism between the JC and the MOJ and other relevant stakeholders to come up with a plan. Come up with a plan, a targeted intervention, not just a, there have been programs before, but short term, right? A targeted intervention where we can target to finish off the backlog within about 3 to 5 years. But for this, infrastructure will have to develop, procedures will have to develop, more judges will have to be recruited. Now, right now we are still understaffed. We are planning to take about 753 court staff, new judges. So that is the plan. But I will await without talking much because first we have to appoint the committee and see what they propose.
In terms of, I mean, that's a staggering number. 1.1 million of backlog cases means that 1.1 million instances where justice is not served. It is still pending there, and people are quite rightly, they're losing hope in terms of getting some kind of a response from this system. So when you come in, I want to talk a little bit about what exactly is the approach. Now, if you have understood the problem, but prior to coming into power, you all would have understood, okay, if we get power, this is our plan towards Justice Ministry. This is how we are going to basically focus on law enforcement in this country. Specifically, when the President opened the 10th Parliament, he said very, very, sternly, listen, people do not trust the Parliament, how you all behave, so you all have to be exemplary. So does the law enforcement and every single person. If they lose hope, where are they to go? This is what the President said. So what is the game plan here? You all have 5 years. How are you going to approach this? Because one accusation from the opposition is we are seeing this typical term from 2015 onwards to 2019 where you are going after your political opponents. 2019 also we saw a similar situation where they went after their political opponents. So are you doing the same thing, or what's the difference this time around?
Well, absolutely no, because you see, if we wanted to go on a witch hunt, look at the majority we got. But when we took over government, we did not even light a cracker. Not a single political opponent was hurt or harmed. And we waited for all this long. But there's a promise that we gave the public. Because the public were aware, there are some emblematic cases where the public felt that they were interfered with. So those investigations now have been reopened and been investigated. And we say one thing for sure. If there's no evidence, we don't charge anybody. Anyway, it is not the decision of the Ministry of Justice. Right? It's the decision of the Honorable Attorney General. Right? So basically, police are investigating some of those cases, right?
Let me interject that. Now, you specifically said you want to keep the, not influencing the Attorney General, not influencing the judiciary system. The executive arm is going to remove itself from this, and please make sure they are just going to watch that enforcement is occurring. How are you going to do that?
Not just watch. Now, for an example, if the Attorney General's department, when the Attorney General's department was not having enough resource personnel, they requested to me. So I have authorized to employ 38 new state counsel. The government analyst department is another department that comes under us, seriously understaffed, about 37 vacancies. So now we can't fill all the 37. As you know that when the government analyst report get late, people are in remand for long times. Cases get delayed. So my job is to facilitate by getting the personnel. So like that, my job is to support. But the law of the land takes over. The criminal procedure code, the penal code, the constitution, law of the land takes course. Our job is to give the facility guidance, right? I mean, for an example, on a policy basis, I can tell the Attorney General this is what we like to do. But on a particular case, I can't say charge him or release him. That's what I meant by not interfering.
We've seen that happen in the past.
It happened in the past so many times, but now it won't happen because we don't do it. And sometimes we get accused by the public saying that we are going too soft on these fellows. But the public will also have to understand now when this particular Yoshito Rajapaksa got the bail, it was a simple step before filing an indictment, according to Attorney General, that you need to make him an accused first or a suspect first. He has never been arrested. So it's a formal step was that taken. And if you were actually in a witch hunt, we would have we would have just found a way to interfere and say, no, keep Yoshito for another 3-4 weeks. We didn't do that, did we? We didn't. Now the Krish indictment went through.
He's a parliamentarian, so is it different how you approach that?
No, basically, I think there may be a process of informing the parliament, but law of the land applies to parliamentarians also.
In a situation, so let's be honest now. So just as much as you let the law play it out, the outcome would be not what people expected. If that happens after the court process, then what?
That's what we call justice. See,
do you respect that?
If I don't respect that, I can't be a minister of justice. If I don't respect the decision of a courthouse, right? Basically, even in the most developed countries, the system of justice, when you say justice is done, in certain instances, justice get delivered by convictions. In certain instances, the justice get delivered by acquittal, if you have not done so. Let's talk about actually without having any characters in your mind. Don't they deserve a fair trial? They deserve a fair trial. A person can only be convicted according to law. What we promised from the election platforms, right? Of course, it would have been interpreted in different ways. But what we promised was the rule of law will be established. That everybody will be treated equally. I mean, if we want to put all the our opponents behind bars, then we are not even following what we preached. So that's what exactly we are doing. So if X is going to be acquitted, that is the law of the land.
No, why I ask that is now, for a simple example, the Easter Sunday case. So when we saw several investigations play out, not just one, not just two, I think around 6 investigations play out within 3 governments, not just one, from 2015 or 2019 when it occurred, the Maithripala Sirisena government, then the Gotabaya Rajapaksa government, and then the Ranil Wickremesinghe government. All of these 3 presidents actually had investigations and did this and that. I raised these questions on the State of the Nation from you as well. What I'm trying to ask you is, now in that scenario, the outcome was not what the public was expecting. The public was expecting something else, like culprit will be brought, there'll be
the
actual. So in a situation like that, if that has played out, and again, let's say y'all say that y'all will reinvestigate and y'all have given that promise to the cardinal plus to the people. In a situation like that, if that same occurrence occurs, what then?
Now, we are not the 3 previous administrations. We are very well aware of the political connections those previous administrations had and their desire not to let the true culprit out. All the 3, the parties would have changed, but it was the same team. They were looking after each other. But does our party want to do that? No, we don't need to, because they are not with us. And we don't have anyone who need to cover up a crime because we are not criminals. right? We don't want to cover up a crime. But what we would do is that we have already started reinvestigated. Now see, when a person wants to cover up something and he orders an investigation, how things happen is quite different. But when there's a government that actually wants justice to be done, then the investigations are different. Even the government servants behave in a different manner when the political will is there to do what is right and just. So in this instance, since especially you spoke about the East attack, we are carrying out the promise. Investigations are on the way. I learned that some new material has surfaced which are good, and not only that, there was some Eknaligoda's case, and these cases are being investigated. Once they are investigated, the Attorney General will consider the new evidence, if any, and then it will be filed. Once the case is filed, remember, before the Attorney General files a case, he assesses the evidence based on what we call prima facie. If there's a prima facie case, then he will file indictment. But in the courthouse, to be convicted, that means you have to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. That's a very higher degree of evidence leading, right? So, I mean, in the past, there were instances he would give the police statement saying, yes, I know this document, yes, I know this signature. I understand this so-and-so signature. So on the strength of that, the Attorney General will file indictment. But in the courthouse, he will say, oh, maybe this signature looks like his. Now, what happens there? How come Malvan House has no owner? AG was not mad to file without evidence, he filed. But the witnesses went back because the actual culprits were in power. When actual culprits are in power, who want to cover things up, evidence is not going to come. But now the culprits are not in power. So I'm asking the public, it's right to doubt us because the people in this country has seen so many years and decades of governance of corruption. So naturally, all those who voted for us are not exactly party members or those who trust us 100%. They gave us the job as observers. They are observing us. So it's natural for them to feel a little jittery when things are getting late. But my message is, give us a year. Give us 2. You gave us 5. We are not even asking for the entire 5. But in time to come, you will see the direction we are heading. But matters of justice, justice delayed is justice denied, and justice hurried is justice buried. Both are there.
Minister, there's a lot more to talk about with regard to the judicial services and also the ministry, and also going forward, how exactly are you going to bring in to keep the politics away from justice, because that is very vital in a country like ours, because even from outside, a lot of nations are looking at us as if there is interference and there's political interference and all those kinds of things. So it is very vital that we keep that moving aside. So how exactly would you be planning to do that? But before that, let's take a short commercial break. You're watching our returning season on Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. We'll be right back. Everyone, to our returning season episode of Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. We've been talking about exactly how the current government is proceeding with the judicial system. What is their approach, and with regard to certain cases that has been filed, and how will justice will be served as there are lots of public interest in certain cases that were told that it was interfered with political interference, but this time around the ministry is promising the nation that things are going to be different. Minister, let me ask you this simple question, because this was also raised in Parliament, and this was also stated by many politicians. You're only going after the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna or the Gotabaya Rajapaksa, or if you have a Rajapaksa name, your government is going after the Rajapaksas. What about the 2015 bond scam? What about the issues in terms of certain cases that occurred during that particular good governance administration? What about them?
Well, as I told you, there are many investigations that is going on. So I think if somebody wants to tell that we are going on the Rajapaksas, I'll just listen quietly, because I know in about 6 months' time, people will know that it's not the case. Because we are not going after people, we are not on a witch hunt, but on cases which investigations gone on. Yes, you are talking about the bond scam. I think in that matter, some cases have been already filed at the trial at bar, and they took some preliminary objections, so now they're at the Supreme Court level. There, I believe the problem is getting down Arjun Mahendra. I think there's a red notice or something to that effect. But I was told that during the previous administration, extradition request has been turned down. So
by
probably
Singapore, because he's a Singaporean national.
Not necessarily because he's Singaporean. For some reason, the Singaporean government may have not been happy with some certain things of the standard, because even another citizen they will extradite when they feel that he will be treated fairly. But there are very stringent requirements are there before they give one of their citizens out. So probably we'll have to look at ways and means of according to red notice. I mean, the moment he goes out of Singapore, he can be arrested. Yeah. So, but I think we have to really reconsider about another extradition request. But anyway, that is not my duty. But probably on a policy basis, we may request the AG to consider again under the new administration how to see they would react.
I want to talk about media freedom. What exactly is your government's approach towards media freedom? This is basically an premise to the online expression, the act that came, I think, from the previous administration. But then again, there were a lot of backlash even from the media itself, saying that this was not exactly healthy to the nation, because freedom of expression is something that is required to every citizen and every national, but not defamation. But then again, you know, you need to be able to tell what you feel. Especially journalists like ours, we should be able to criticize the government if the government is doing something wrong or something not in line with what they promised to the people. So we should be able to, and if we are being reprimanded because of that, that is not exactly the media freedom it has happened in previous administrations. Certain journalists found themselves in very hot waters,
and
because
some TV station being burned down.
Yeah, exactly. So in a situation like that, what exactly is your government's approach? Because we've seen the other administrations, we've seen what they promised, and when they came to power, how it changed and all that we've seen in the past. We've not seen what you all are going to do, because you're the third party candidate that won. So what exactly is your approach on that?
Well, I think so far you couldn't have seen anything that we did or planning to do to curtail the freedom of speech. I don't think you can give any example of that. Not like the previous governments. You know, we have nothing to do with it. But also you must understand that we, from 3% to a government, we got the government because of freedom of speech. So that's a right we need to protect. More than the media, we need to protect the media, because it's the freedom of speech, the fourth pillar, the fourth state rather to speak. Absolutely essential. Because if we don't have the right for the journalists or the citizens to question those that they appoint, then you are inviting a different sort of anarchy or a elitist rule. So therefore, we are for freedom of speech. Because that is obvious, we don't even have to say, it goes without saying. The fact that you had to ask that question itself shows how far behind this country in such a concept. Yeah. To ask that, sad, but I know why you asked.
Because there are colleagues of mine who actually has gone through the mill because of their right to express.
Right, now let's see the online safety bill, act, now it's an act actually. Now remember, when the online safety bill, it was bill stage, we as a party also objected to it. Why did we object to it? Reason is it was curtailing freedom of speech. It was curtailing or trying to punish without due process those who held a different political view, right? But we even at that time said the Online Safety Act is necessary. If you look at Singapore, if you look at England, they do have online safety acts, but they're aimed at what?
Yeah.
They're aimed at cyberbullying,
exactly,
or revenge porn, or something that the current laws will not cover. Because remember, as much as you have the freedom of speech, the other person also have the right not to be lied about that person. Even right now, there are a large number of complaints to the cyber crimes of the CID saying so and so has put this fake profile of me. So and so is doing this online, blackmailing me. Now those people are waiting for a law to come into operation where their grievance also could be addressed. So therefore, are we going to bring the Online Safety Act? Yes, we are. But is it in the same form that it existed? My God, no way. Right? No way. Because that's something we objected to. Right? Now the act is passed. Yeah. All we have to do is to appoint the commission and start. But if you look at that act, right, it's a simple, not a simple, I mean, they have just picked up a few bits and pieces from the penal code and throw in there, right? And then they overlap. Sometimes the sentencing conflicts. And the worst thing about that act is that when that authority under the act decides that this is a false statement according to their own thing, appointed by the president at that time, you have to remove your content even without appeal procedure. Now all the other laws, when the regulator gives that order, there's a process of appealing. That's how due process works. So now that act is under the Media Ministry, Health and Media. I can tell you that on the 11th, we are having a initial discussion to form the committee, I think facilitated by the UNDP, where civil society activists also will take part. I will also take part. That is the initial discussion for us to have a better Online Safety Act, where freedom of expression is also protected, but at the same time, I mean, you see the amount of fake news that is online and malicious statements attacking people personally. But those things also have to be dealt with. Freedom of expression doesn't mean that you can lie and hurt others to your heart's content. That is not freedom of speech. That is hate speech. That is
defamation.
Defamation. No, but defamation is civil. No. I think there should be something to prevent that from happening. So now on the 11th, we have the initial one. It's a public consultation, not that we got together and did it. And we can implement it as it is because now it's law. But instead of that, we are going for the open consultation process of finding a better online act. And we will do it fast. We are not going to drag our feet on it. So that action itself will show, because we can always say the law is already there. We didn't pass it, so we are going to use it. Now, if we wanted to suppress media freedom, we won't be having this assistance from civil organizations and stakeholders to revamp the law to meet the standards of human rights.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you are seated right in front of me and expressing all these kinds of information to the audience, to the public of Sri Lanka and to the world. But the information avenue that is coming from the government, I'm asking you because you are a cabinet minister, is very lackluster. It is not exactly like even for us to get, like, you know, the media spokesperson, which is the media minister and Minister of Health. Very hard.
What is hard?
Because of the simple fact saying that, you know, they are doing this, they are doing that, doing this thing. But the only opportunity that you get is that Tuesday press conference, which we all usually have. But what I'm asking, even the Prime Minister, who used to be very vocal with the media and who'd been very active, you know, coming into shows and talking, debating and all that. That was a very vibrant way of communicating with the people and sharing. Now you're sitting here and giving your opinion, and I can actually ask you. So this is good. Why is that not being extended to the whole of the government? Is it because what I'm the question that I'm raising is, you all have this centralized way of whether it has to be approved through them for you all to express and all that kind of nonsense.
I know that a rumor of that kind did go around, even about me, saying I'm avoiding media. No, not the case. Remember, I said 2 months. The first month took us to settle in, to take stock, right? And people have voted us to work. Within the first 1 month, there's nothing for me to come and tell the media. Those days when we were in the opposition, we were the opposition. So we had, these are the problems, when we come we'll fix. Now you are not expecting that from me. You want me to come and tell you the answers to the problems, right? So that's why we took time. There's no centralized authority. True, the Prime Minister, I mean, all of us work nearly 7 days of the week. I don't think the Prime Minister sleeps before 11 o'clock anyway. None of us do, right? So with that schedule, yes, there have been instances I told no to the journalist. I said, I have nothing to say now. Because people are not expecting us to come and make public shows anymore. They expect us to work and deliver. So,
but it is also very vital to tell the people.
Of course. I'm sure if you invite Nalinda, he'll come. But depending on the time schedules. Remember, from the time you become a minister, the invitations you get are way
why
too many.
I'm asking this is, we have had many individuals who are in the opposition seated right there in front of me. Very quick to come, very swift to be here.
Well, they have nothing to do. They're not running a cabinet.
Exactly.
We are running a country.
That no sooner they become power, I'm talking specifically about the Gotabaya Rajapaksa administration. The amount of information that went to the public just curtailed. There was so much of things that was, and whenever we raised questions, it was like, no, we are doing. Because it is so vital for the people to see that you all actually, these actions are occurring and here are the tangible steps that have been taken. So in a situation like that, I understand 2 months, obviously, 6 months, the honeymoon period will be there for at least a good 1 year. But then people need to know.
No, I'm never denying the fact that we should come for these things and talk about what we are doing. But I'm wondering where that impression came that we are difficult. Because if you look at TV programs, the Sinhala Alliance especially, every evening one of our members of parliament or ministers are there. If you invite Nalinda, he will come. But depending on our schedules. Now yesterday I was at a TV debate till night, TV program. Today I'm here, meeting 2 papers. Now after this week, for about another week or 2, I may not, unless there's a special reason, I won't come. So I think it is that false narrative about us saying we are centrally controlled that is taking hold of people's minds. I mean, you're questioning on behalf of the people, no?
Yes.
Obviously. So you're talking what the public feels. That is a false narrative that we avoid the media. How many presidents after they became president went for a live TV show for being questioned? Anuruddha Sanayaka did. So I don't know how that story came about. Yes, there are certain instances where we say no, not because of anything, lack of time to prepare. I mean, we always prepare. You know that. How many times I spoke to you, I said, what you need from me, what I'll bring the information. We don't consider this as a little picnic. We come here to educate the public.
Minister, let's talk about something that is in line with the online presence as well. Digitization and the judiciary. Now, these are like worlds apart. If you look at Sri Lanka's judiciary system, in terms of like in other countries, in other developing countries, digitization of this system is very behind the timeline. How are you, because this is going to fall directly under you, going to bring this to the 21st century and to 2025, where we can actually, the court system is also digitized to an extent where it is not wasting public's money, time and money, and also it is not a cumbersome process to get justice in this nation. Because right now, if you don't, I mean, one thing is, of course, education-wise, our students have no clue about what is our constitution even. I'm talking from small grades as they grow up. I think it should be a subject in school where law is taught, the constitution is taught. So at least they have an understanding about what their rights are, what they can do, what they cannot do. That is point number one. Second thing is when something happens, people don't know where to turn to because of the lack of knowledge. So they go through these, we have a lawyering system, and sometimes if you get a bad lawyer, then the court case falls apart. If you get a good one, then you say money is always involved in scenarios like that. So how are you going to bring this to a point where you can actually make justice is served very efficiently and quickly without making it a headache for the public?
Well, we can do a separate 1-hour program on this topic, but I'll be quick on with you. Firstly, digitization, essential. But digitization alone is not going to deliver justice or solve all the problems. But right now, there's been a project which has been done by the previous governments called the Jure project. Now, with the assistance of the UNDP and the UN agencies, about digitizing. That means we still run records manually, right? So that process now has, I think last 2 years, it may have not worked much, so I need to assess where it has stand. So I'll be taking steps. So digitization will take place. And sometimes some disasters come in a bit of a blessing also. That is the Corona period. Now during the Corona period, the judiciary was forced to go on online hearings, e-filing. So I believe Supreme Court is now having certain limited amount of e-filing. And also we are bringing in 2 amendments to the procedure code and the civil procedure code and the criminal procedure code, just as an example, where people could give evidence via audio-visual link without actually having to come to court.
Yeah.
Right? In that way, even if they're out of the country, the case won't get postponed. Cases get postponed when the accused is not there, when the witness is not there. So what these amendments, which will be brought to Parliament in a few months, will address that problem. So that will avoid getting delayed. So, but it's a complete overhaul we have to do, right? And it's not going to be done.
Do we have the money to do that?
No, we don't. Right now, we don't have the money. In fact, if the government tells me, Harshana, we have a large kitty here, tell us what you want, I'll be asking for more staff. Because remember, government service is full of people, but not at the skilled places. The salary scales are not attractive to retain talent or to get new ones with talent. I'm not going to tell those lines. But especially after 2021, that is not enough. Now look at the government analysis department, 37, but we're only getting 16 in. 753 have put a paper to recruit because some courthouses will close without staff. And the other biggest problem we had, political interference again, that you keep on appointing people, right, and they want service stations closer to their home. Because that's how that previous minister appointed. Now they are refusing the transfer sometimes. So all these things have to be addressed. So I'll round it up by saying, digitization, yes, we have to see where it goes. Secondly, court practices and sometimes the number of judges have to be increased. We have about only 19 judges per 1 million. But in a country like Germany or Europe, right, there are about 40 to 50 judges per 1 million population. Judges are also human. Yeah. They are not machines. Their emotional well-being is essential. Attorney General's department. You know, I'll just tell you, just to get the idea. There are, say, 80,000 police officers, and let's say 40,000 only do traffic duties, let's say. The other 40,000 investigates into crime, we'll say. Even that, we'll say 20,000 cops, what they investigate, will simply go to, say, magistrate courts, not the Attorney General, not serious. Now, the other 20,000, let's assume they send advice for Attorney General. Now, how many are there to receive? Less than 200 on the criminal side. So when 20,000 files come, how are they going to handle? You need to increase the cadre, which we have done. So if you ask me, cadre need to be increased, salary scales have to be attractive, we have to be able to retain talent, but things are not going to happen that smooth with this country in this economically precarious situation. But when we are taking over government, we knew what this was all about. So we are not going to complain about what we don't have, but we are going to make do with what we have, especially with friends, international friends helping us and making it work, because there's no other way. If your company's bankrupt, you can wind up. If your shop is not making losses, you can close it down. But you can't wind up or close down a country. This is what we have to work with, and we are very well aware of the challenges. We are taking one step at a time.
Let's take a short commercial break. I'm in conversation with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. We'll be right back. This is our returning episode of Get Real. To our returning episode of Get Real. I'm in conversation with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. I want to talk about the national integration part now. Gave a very good explanation with regard to the Justice Ministry and exactly the issues and what exactly you all are planning to do. National integration, what does it mean? Are we
Well, if you really ask me, about 30-40 years ago, people didn't need a ministry to tell be nice to each other regardless of their caste, religion or race. But then things changed. Things changed so much that we have to establish a ministry asking people to be nice to each other. So in a nutshell, Right, but what happened was actually, now there are four offices there. That is ONUR, that is Office of National Unity and Reconciliation. Then OMP, Office of Missing Persons. Then there's OR, Office of Reparations. Then there is the Language Commission. Now, these were established mainly by the previous governments, not with any genuine intention of carrying out any of those reconciliation mandates. But from time to time, you get sanctioned by Geneva. Yeah. And they tell you, you must do this, you must do that.
But my argument here is this. Yeah. National integration, national reconciliation, all went into the rubbish bin when President AKD was won. That's and your government won, right up there in the north, down in the south, in east and west. When that has happened,
why do you need this?
Why do you need this? Because people in the north said it's a singular leader, we are going to support him. And people in the south also said the same thing. East said the same thing. Everybody's saying the same thing. Now, why are we having a ministry and telling here, oh, hang on, you're this, you're that, and going in that?
You just answered my answer. You answered me. You just used my answer, so I'll come back and might repeat what you have to say, right? I'll repeat what you said. You're right, because what happened in 2019, when Gotabaya Rajapaksa won, when he said, I only won with Sinhala votes, then these establishments will not serve anything. But now, what do we have to build? Trust cannot be built by laws. So, a society that has fought a war for 30 years, right? They are hurt, especially the missing persons. They feel betrayed. They have told their story so many times, but there's no closure for them, right? Now, you're right, because with this election, I think it's quite historical in that sense. A national party, which is not representing any religion or thing. I mean, even you saw our campaign, it was never on the racial lines. But the previous politics in this country has always been on racial lines. That's how they get their votes. So, like you said, when AKD won, that means people's problems are solved. No. That's not how it happened. What happened was they trusted us. They said, the North gave a message. When we were contesting elections, there were so many political establishments from the North and the East who came and told us, why don't you give us this from your party and we will get our base to vote for you. I mean, they were basically auctioning their people. I said, no, thank you. Because you know why? We respect those people in the North and the East. Even if we were to lose, this is not how we are going to do politics. We are not that. And the people trusted us. Now we have to deliver on that trust. So the moment we come into power, if we scrap off these officers, what is the message we are sending them? But what we have to do is this. It's very easy now. Unlike previous governments, it's very easy for us. Because our mandate is from the North, our mandate is from the East. So we have to win their trust and serve them the same way we would serve someone in the South. Right? So right now what we have to do with these institutions is to see how they can be better brought up with their mandate slightly changed to increase social cohesion. Remember, we are a country who fought on race and religion for a very long time with political backing, right? Now the political leadership, the will here is no for that. So we will be able to use these things for national integration, for people to come together. And just like you, I'm also hoping by the end of our 5 years, there may never need an office to tell, be nice to the Tamil guys. Be nice, because they are our brothers. When we were younger, we had a society, no brother. We had a society. I'm sure I'm a little older than you, right? When I was about like going to school, we had the bus conductors getting off the bus, making sure we are inside the bus. They will shout at us and put us in the bus, and they safely take us to school. Why? We are not their children. But that was a society that had empathy. They looked after each other. When Clean Sri Lanka also, it's not about just cleaning us, Shramadana. It's about attitude, going back to being nice to each other, being good to each other. When I was small, the only time I knew, I went to Isipatana myself, and we had a lot of friends who are Muslims. The only time I remember they are Muslim is because on Fridays they go for their prayers. Otherwise, we never thought of it. So we have to bring back that society. So as a minister in charge of national integration, I have a deputy, Mr. Munir Mulafar. We are working together. In fact, on the 8th of this month, we are having a policy level discussion with all our stakeholders, the UN agencies, the European Union agencies and the ICRC, to figure out the best program forward for social cohesion and reconciliation. But it will be very possible for us to do.
When you mention those organizations, because what usually happens and what we've seen in other parts of the world is that when they get involved, their agendas take precedent and our agenda gets sidelined. As a country, we have to put our people first, not exactly some other agency which is sitting in Geneva or which is sitting in New York, telling us this is how you should live your life, or it has to be the other way around, saying this is who we are and this is what will work in our society. So in a situation like that, how exactly are you dealing? Because whatever said and done, economy is the number one issue here. So when the economy is number one issue, we are at the beck and call of those agencies and organizations who give us funding in order to keep these systems running. So that position also, is a very, very tricky subject in order to, negotiate. So how do you do that?
Well, basically, I mean, you are raising this question because the public is also thinking the same way. They are doubtful, they are suspicious. Remember, we are a country who has signed the UN. So we are a member of the UN. So they are not outsiders to us. But yes, in the past there was a problem. That means we have ministers and political leaders who had no innovative thinking, simply takes lock, stock and barrel what they give. But the whole idea of these discussions that we are doing is also not to get to tell them to do what we want. It is basically, we will have to come up with our own program.
Yeah.
But at a higher level, we have to agree which are the areas that we are going to promote. But ultimately, we will only accept action plans and programs that will suit us to solve the issues that we are facing. And to be honest, I have spoken with the UN agencies and everybody, they are on the same page as me. What they are saying is, tell us what you want done. Tell us how we can give expertise. Because remember, there are certain, not just resources, not just material, money or things like that, but expertise. They have worked in many countries for reconciliation, peace building. So they have more expertise they could share with our people. Now, what has happened in the past, this is what I didn't like, and I told my staff and the UN agencies are very well aware. That is, they bring some project.
Yeah.
And our fellows also accept it on the basis, we are getting donations. Now, either that doesn't solve a problem, or we are supposed to, whenever we get a donation, material or expertise, we are supposed to be empowered by that experience and carry on. But what has happened in the past, when the donor agency leaves, the project collapses.
Yeah.
Now, we don't want that. So, what we do is we share expertise, we get the ideas, but the program, action plan, that's what we are going to decide.
Minister of Justice, one final question, we have to wrap it up. Because why I asked that question was UNHRC is part of this entire whole conundrum of UN agencies, and also we are very much being highlighted there in that organization. One of the things that was pushed down the line in previous administrations was this foreign judges concept of coming here and intervening. What is your government's position on that?
Well, our government, I mean, we have not spoken this in the cabinet. There was no reason to talk about it in the cabinet. So I do not know. If I can't tell you this is the official government position because we have not discussed it. But I can tell you that we will generally stand for sovereignty of this nation. So therefore, we have good judges just to deliver justice. And right now, not even others can say. Now there's this Truth and Reconciliation Act. The biggest problem was whether we are going to get foreign judges or not. So all this time, the argument of the Tamil politician was, oh, our people don't trust you. And I don't think that argument is valid anymore. So the question of foreign judges won't arise.
Well, we have to wrap it up. Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. It was a very eye-opening. Thank you very much for coming up and sharing your ideas and telling us exactly what you're doing right now. And I hope you come back.
Yes, I will definitely come back. And thank you very much for having me. I was able to tell things. So thank you very much. I was very happy.
Please keep coming back and visiting the media. You can always, have a nice chat about what this country is, where we are going as a nation collectively, not just the government separate, the people separate. We are all together, and we have to find a mechanism. Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on our returning seasonal episode of Get Real. I'll be back again next week at the same time, a new time, this time around on Friday at 7 p.m. Next Friday at 7 p.m. as well. Thank you for joining us. See you then. Bye for now.
I need to hear some sounds that recognize the pain in me, yeah. I let the melody shine, let it cleanse my mind. I feel free now, but the airways are clean and there's nobody singing to me now. No change, I can change, I can change, I can change, but I'm here in my mode. I am here in my mode, but I'm a million different people from one day to the next. I can't change my mode.